Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Our Kids Play Hockey. We want to let you know that we have once again been honored with a nomination for the Hockey Podcast of the Year via the Sports Podcasting Awards. And all you need to do to help us is go to ourkidsplayhockey.com and click on the Vote Now button. It asks you a couple questions. You're in and you're out, and you have voted for us for Hockey Podcast of the Year. I want to thank you all for being a wonderful, wonderful audience and helping us get to this stature of hockey podcasting, because we've done it as a family, as the hockey friends and families around the world. Thanks so much and enjoy this episode of Our Kids Play Hockey. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. We're talking about clinics today. I was at my local rink recently, and I was thinking about a lot of the clinics I did as a kid, but also that we're getting to that time of the year where clinics are starting to pop up for the off season. And we wanted to do an episode, not just about the off season, but clinics in general, what to look for, good, bad, red flags, everything in between, and really how to get the most out of them for your money, for your time, for your kids' development, and for their sanity, for lack of a better reason. So enjoy this episode all about that. And also want to remind you that Christie and I wrote a book. It's called When Hockey Stops. You can check that out at whenhockeystops.com for exclusive pre-order access and some free gifts. If you support the show and you want to support us, that's a great way to do it. So again, check that out at whenhockeystops.com. And I'm going to stop now so that you can watch this episode of Our Kids Play Hockey about clinics. Enjoy. Hello, hockey friends and families around the world, and welcome to another edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. I'm Lee Elias, and I'm joined, as always, by Christie Casciano-Burns and Mike Benelli. And if you're watching this episode, coming to you recorded live from my new studio here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, for those of you listening, it looks like a locker room. We are moving. We are moving up in the world because of you, because of this audience growing every single week. We get nothing but positive feedback, so we appreciate that. But let's get into today's topic, because we know that's what you're here for. We're talking about clinics today. Clinics, hockey clinics, because as we get closer to the spring, even though we're still in January, we're getting lots of questions about the off season and what clinic should I take in the season, out of the season. So today's going to be your 101 from especially the expert Mike Benelli, what to look for when picking a clinic, what questions to ask, what to ask your kid, what to think about skill-wise. Is it too much? Is it too little? Should I pay this much? Should I not do it? All those questions and more will be answered today on Our Kids Play Hockey. Guys, I'm not going to lie. That was one of my smoother opens. I was feeling that one today.
Very good.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. So let's just start with the basics, guys. When we look at clinics as a whole, Mike, I'm going to start with you. There's several types of clinics, basically down to the skill sets, right? There's the skating clinics, which is usually called power skating. Sometimes there's shooting clinics. There's goalie clinics. And then sometimes there's just overall skill clinics. So, Mike, again, if I'm a parent, let's just say, I coach a kid in 8U like I do, or I'm new to the game, right? What direction do I go in? Because there's so much out there.
Yeah. So I think the first step you need is to understand, what is the fundamental piece of the game that you want to work on. So the clinic really is a supplemental opportunity for something that maybe your child isn't getting in practice. So, because all of us, we have our team practices, you can only work on so much. I mean, you power skating. I'm not a big power skating guy. I'm a big, let's learn how to properly skate person.
Right.
So that if you can incorporate clinics into your daily routine, and if it's not like a clinic right after a 2-hour practice, it's a clinic that supplements your season, then I'm all for it. I think it's a great way to, the goaltenders are always the ones that get the short end of practice, because it's just, there's not enough coaches out there that cater practice to goalies. So goalies traditionally are the ones that have to seek out these extra, lessons and programming. But ultimately, the biggest takeaway, I think, is that when you look for a clinic, look for something that supplements a piece of your child's game that they're not getting in practice. It could be multiple things, but you want to make sure that it's not, practice Monday, clinic Tuesday, practice Wednesday, clinic Thursday, practice Friday, early morning clinic Saturday, 2 games.
Yeah.
And you just have to find a way. So the spring is a great time to look and choose different aspects of the child's game where it's less commitment. It's probably a lot cheaper. It gives you an opportunity to explore different types of coaches and really fill in the gaps that your child might be missing.
Right. And there are a lot of clinics that are going to pop up in the spring. And what we always did, and we've done a lot of clinics over the years, and we've done our homework before we signed our kids up for that. Just like you would go on a restaurant review page just to see what the reputation of the restaurant is, how's the food. You can do the same thing with a hockey clinic by talking to
Yeah.
other hockey parents, the ones, go to the parent with a kid who's a couple of years older and say, hey, have you ever done this clinic? What are they getting out of it? How much time are they spent on the ice? Is it just run by a bunch of high school kids trying to make money and the coach just, takes off and says, hey, kids, run the clinic? You want somebody in charge of that clinic who's got skills and who knows how to manage young kids. Who's not just going to take your money and run. Just because it's a clinic doesn't mean that your kids are going to get a lot out of it. So we've always talked to other parents, say, hey, your kid, I heard your kid did this clinic. What did you think about it? Was it worth it? And they may steer you in another direction. We got lucky one year when this one parent said, oh no, don't do that clinic. Because he knew our kid wanted to work on his shooting skills rather than skating. He said, this Turcotte clinic is coming into town. And I got to tell you, it's really good. Joey loved it. And that was one of the best clinics he ever went to. They were very, very good with him. They did a videotape at the end and actually showed him, before and after what he worked on, his improvements, what more he needed to work on. So my advice is before you sign up, do your homework, talk to other parents, see if there's any online reviews. That'll help you too.
Yeah. And that being said, Christy, too, that look for clinics and what they're defined as. Like there's a big difference between just a workout. You pay $25 and you go out and they call it a clinic, but all you're doing is a coach is putting you through a bunch of drills. I always look through, ROI, what am I paying for? If I'm paying more and there's a lot less kids and I really get a great coach to be able to pinpoint something for my child, that to me is worth the extra $10 an hour. If it's 65 kids on the ice and they're quote unquote doing power skating where they're in 6 lines and they're just going down and out up the ice, I don't know. I could do that in public session. I mean, I think so. So be careful about, what the clinic is defined as, and then ask, is it a clinic or is it just a workout? Is it just repetitive? Because, there's a saying, right? You want to get, if you really want to get really, really good at being bad, do the wrong thing over and over and over again, right? So, if you want to be a really bad, good skater, then just take bad power skating classes. Right. And I think it's just, that's what you got to look out for. Is it a workout or is it actually an instructional piece that you can add to your child? Because if it's not, then just go to the playground. You'll have a better chance of getting better.
Yeah, you're hitting all the right notes here. And I love that you mentioned the coach-kid ratio. That is so important. I found over the years, 6-to-1 seems to be a good ratio, 6 kids to 1 coach. I think that is manageable. The kids get a lot out of it. The coach's eyes are really on the kids. And also, find out what the coach's experience is. Just because he says he can coach your kids, what's his reputation? How much experience does he have? What's his level of coaching? All those questions are good ones to ask before you sign up and hand over your money.
Yeah, and let's dive into some of these clinics because, look, I think, and we'll get into goalie ones in a little bit, but I think for forwards or just skaters, power skating is the most popular named clinic. And I do want to say this. Look, I find this to be true. Most people, I get it, say again, most clinics run in power skating are done by people that want to do a good job. Okay. There are people out there that are just trying to money grab. So as Christy and Mike said, you want to look for clinics that say limited availability. All right. That's important, right? If it's unlimited availability, that coach ratio to players probably going to be crazy and your kid's not going to learn much. But when you look at power skating, I remember being 13 years old and I was a really fast skater, but also very uncontrolled. And I went to Robbie Glantz power skating. And I did Tim Turcotte's too. And invaluable information. Those clinics were so well run and they completely understood how to teach, how to give focus and the exact mechanics that each level of skater needed, right? That clinic was invaluable. And that's what you want to look for. There are well-established power skating clinics out there that you can find, and they do make the rounds. Now, with that said, another big part of clinics, guys, is, does your kid want to do it or not? All right. I did share on a Our Kids Play Hockey Facebook page the other day, a great message from Ray Ferraro about clinics, that sometimes clinics are important, whether you want to do them or not, but you also want to make sure that your kid doesn't hate that they're going. Right now, power skating is a good example. I remember when my dad signed me up for that, didn't necessarily like the idea of sprinting for an hour and being dog tired at the end. But then it was explained to me the value of it. And I did it. And I'll tell you what, I still to this day utilize things I learned from that when I was a teenager. Right. So the value was there. Right. But if you get to the springtime in the summer, especially if you got a younger kid, again, the older kids don't typically have this issue. And the kid just wants to play soccer or do taekwondo or whatever, let them do that. Because at the younger, we always split the show up between younger developmental and higher developmental, excuse me. It's actually more, and Mike, please comment on this. It's probably more valuable for your younger child. Again, that's kind of 8 to 12 to be playing multiple sports as a development technique. Okay. If you bury your younger kid in clinics and 4 teams and hockey 12 months a year, which has been proven to not be good, which we still make this mistake for some reason, I don't know what you're doing. Adversely, if your kid is 12 and up and hockey is their life and they really love it and they've played other sports and they want to do clinics, they want to do shooting clinics, they want to do power skating, have that conversation with them. Breaks are also important. Anyway, Mike, let me throw it to you again, because kind of keep it on the power skating and what I said about, having a conversation with your kid, right?
Yeah,
there's a balance.
I think you're the adult, so you're the one that has to say, listen, do you really feel you can get value out of some skating classes? Yeah, Dad, I'd love to do that. Okay. Right. Well, I'll kind of address this as a director, like somebody that works with coaches on learning how to coach and works with a lot of coaches actually on how to develop, a brand in clinics. So one of the things you want to find, and it's hard, there's no doubt about it, because I think a lot of what power skating coaches do is just say, I was a top level figure skater. I'm a great power skater. I can flip and dip and run on 2 edges and 1 edge, and I can do a tumble salt. And then, and your child can't do those things, right? This player has accomplished what they've accomplished. So what I would look for, if I'm looking for a clinic, I'm looking for somebody that runs a system. I'm looking for somebody that I don't need to work out. I don't need to be dog tired at the end, right. And I cringe when I'm like, oh, and this is like our friend Darryl Belfry, right? He'll talk about this all the time about, well, does it look like, is the kid sweating? Are they breathing heavy? And were they always moving? Well, a parent think that's a good clinic.
Right. Like, that's a great point, Mike. That's a great point.
Like,
sweaty heads go to bed, right? We always
come to the field. Come to the field for free, and I'll do that to your kid for free. Right?
Yeah.
So what is the value you're looking for? Well, I want a coach that has a system. I want a head coach or an instructor or whoever the name is to have trained people. I don't care if they're 14-year-old kids working with 7-year-olds. If they have a system and they have a progressionary program in place.
Exactly.
Number one is what I'm looking for. Run away from the clinic that says, I'm going to give you 4 hours of ice. Your kids are going to be dead and their legs are going to be noodles. That's a workout. That's training. That's something different. That's not teaching. And I think if we can think about what am I looking for? I'm looking for somebody that has a progressionary program. Yes, the reputation's great, but are they going to put my child in a place where it's not subjective? I know that I could see something on the first day of the clinic, and on week 8, I see something else. Yeah. And what is that gap? And if I can find those coaches, that's where I'm going after.
That's what you're paying for.
Right. So let's just emphasize that. Don't pick the clinic because it has good reputation, but is it good for your kid?
Right. It's a good fit.
Because you have specific things for your kid.
Well, there's plenty of people that listen. The large majority of parents think that the kids working hard and sweating and leaving tired is good, and it is good in a way. I mean, if you don't mind paying $28 to have your kid do a workout, great. But if you're looking for a specific skill development, and we're talking about skating right now, then get me a coach that's going to almost micro teach what that stride is. Right. And depending on the age, I'm not talking about, the different radiuses of blade touch on the ice to a 6-year-old.
Right.
I'm probably playing tag and they're turning backwards and forward and pivoting. But as I get older and kids start to learn, and they start to learn angles of their knee, where their hip is, where their body is, how their stick leads, all those kind of things. It from an outsider's point of view looks boring, and it is boring, but it's fundamentally a way to teach, and it's not drilling.
Right.
Don't for the if you're going to go to a clinic to learn, don't drill, learn.
We should also talk about like what's the definition of the word clinic.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. That's
Right.
it's a clinic. It's not a workout. Mike, that's a really great point that you're making. And like I said, look, the best clinics I ever went to, I learned a tremendous amount. And like what I remember about, I'm going to keep using that Tim Turcotte one because I remember it. I'm actually surprised how much I remember. Yeah.
His skills were night and day.
Well,
Just-
there's a reason why Turcotts and Skinners and Robbie Glanzes and in our area around here, Eric Nates, and there's a reason why these people could be in business for 20 years. It's
Right.
not because they have they've developed a name, but they
System.
produce success.
Yeah.
And it's not based off of, what do you think about that guy? Oh, he works the hell out of my kid.
Mhm.
Oh, that's great. But
Right.
what has he learned, and what
Right.
is he left with? And I think at the end of the day, when you could find people that have systems,
Yeah.
whether it's Tim Turk in a shooting system, whether it's Robbie Glanz in a special skating system, where it's Laura Stam or Barbara Williams or whoever it is, find a way to like that type of system,
Yeah.
and then embrace it, and then use that as the building blocks of your child's development.
That's a great idea. Great.
Yeah.
Love everything you're saying.
Go ahead, Christy.
Well, the other thing, it just came to mind. I remember this one clinic we signed up for, and I did not check the facility itself. Had I known that the rink was going through problems, it was breaking down,
Yeah.
almost every week, I wouldn't have signed them up for that clinic, because we signed them up, the rink broke down. So then they had it, we're going to do everything outside now for the kids, which was on for them.
Yeah.
But that's not what
That's not what you paid for.
our intent was. That's not what I wanted our kids to work on. So just a little heads up, you may want to also just check the facility itself.
That's a great point. Yeah,
Hey.
especially if you live in an area with older rinks. Like I
Yeah,
said,
older.
most rinks now have 4 or 5 rink facilities. But yeah, if you have an
Yeah.
older rink,
Yeah.
it's funny. I did the Tim Turcotte in an older rink outside Philadelphia in a place called Wissahickon. Before I'm gonna jump into red flags in a minute. The last thing I just wanted to say, from a player point of view, what I remember about that Tim Turcotte school was, I remember going in being very confident in my skating. I remember feeling that way. I'm the fastest kid on my team. I've got a gift. I remember thinking that. And I remember day one, like drill 1 or drill 2, I was like, oh man, I'm not good at any of this stuff. Like he had me doing drills that I just couldn't do. And
Yeah.
I remember 2 things. I remember not liking at that age, being uncomfortable. And I remember now looking back, very happy that I was not uncomfortable, because it challenged me to become better. And I left that far better than I was when I came in. All right. The other thing too with clinics, guys, we talk about this, shooting clinics, goalie clinics. It's the same mentality, right? As Mike said, find a system, find someone who's going to go through a shot. It's not just taking 1,000 shots a clinic. It's taking good shots. I'd rather my kid take 50 good shots than 1,000 bad shots. Because Mike, as you said, it's about mechanics. It's about muscle memory, especially when you get older. You want to learn a skill, muscle memory is the way to do it. And Mike, as you said, very boring doing the same thing over and over and over again 50 times in a row, but that's how you build muscle memory. That's how you do it. It's funny because I still do drills like that in my basement. My kids downstairs running around, I got this ball, I got this puck, I'm just shooting. That's what I want them to do, just have fun. And I'm down there, forward pass, backhand, forward hand, back pass, forward hand. He's like, Dad, that's so boring. I said, I know, I love the grind, son. He'll get there one day, maybe. Let's just go into red flags real quick, okay? I'm going to go into a dangerous one, all right? We did a show months ago, you guys should listen to, about showcases. And this red flag was in showcases. It's also in clinics. If you meet a coach or you meet an organization that says, oh yeah, no, we have tryouts in the spring. If you want to make the team, you should do this clinic, because all the kids who make the team do this clinic. That's dangerous to me if it's done the wrong way. It's all about how it's verbalized. If an organization says, and Mike, definitely want your thoughts on this. An organization says, we provide this clinic. It's recommended, not necessary, but we provide this clinic. But if anybody says to you, you can't make my team unless you do the clinic, run from that organization. That is a money grab, and it's wrong, and it does not create, it's elitism. All right. We have a major problem in this game with this already.
I
right?
agree. Wrong. Shouldn't happen. Mike, I know you're chomping at the bit here. Go ahead, jump in.
I know. I think it's right. I think it's a definitely, if you can find yourself a pre-tryout ID clinic for tryouts, go for it. I mean, it's crazy. You hear, where are you going? Oh, I'm going to the pre-ID tryout for the tryout. So it's a pre-tryout clinic just so I could get identified for the tryout. Please run away from those. Just find a way to say, my advice to a parent, if you really listen, I don't want to get myself in trouble with the big clinic guys, but
don't get in trouble, Mike. Don't do it.
Do it.
If you're a parent and you're influential, right? I don't care if your kid's the worst kid on the team, the best kid on the team. You're an influential parent. You're the mom or dad that sits up and buys everybody a cup of coffee and then bitches and talks and say, "Oh, this is how it should be done."
Mike,
right?
I feel like you got someone right in your mind right now.
So I do. I have four people. They'll be in the scroll. I'll scroll them.
Right.
So,
right.
So fine. You know what you do? You say to those 6 people, you know what's a better ROI? I got this guy, girl, great coach. We're all going to spend $150. We're going to rent the ice, and our 6 kids are going to go into it's the same thing.
It's a pod.
At the end of the day, find a way. You could cater. There's the idea that you have to go find clinics. Well, there's so many great hockey people out there.
Right.
Instead of building clinics, you're the consumer. If you're a parent on this podcast right now, you're the consumer. It's your money. You don't have to just go and go, oh, I just pay for the Friday night clinic. I guess that's what I do. No, go out, get 6 parents, 7, 10 parents, and then rent the ice in the spring. It's cheap. It's the cheapest you're going to find it.
Yeah.
Rent the coach, rent the parent, get your 10 kids, and then specifically say, I have 10 weeks and I want this, and this to be done. That's it. And let them go at it. You'll have, not only will you have a better experience, but you'll be able to cater the personality of the coach to your kids. You could take the blame then for not doing it correctly. Or you could take the credit for saying, wow, that was actually a much different way for me to teach. Now, and the coaches in the area, if I'm that coach, I'm loving it. It's 10 kids. I get paid. Maybe I do another one right afterwards. And then I do another one right afterwards. It's easier to coach. It's better to coach. In my mind, it's more fun because it's.
I was just going to say that, way more fun. I've been in those situations as a coach, and they are way more fun. You see these
guys that do the line drills, and they're like, they're checking their phone, they're having a coffee, they're looking at their watch.
There's another red flag. A coach has his phone on the ice.
Yeah, if you're on doing stock trades while you're doing an inside edge drill.
Get me more Microsoft. Come on, guys. Skate. I said skate.
It's wrong, right? So put a little Bitcoin money away and go find a good coach and get your kids on the ice for 10 weeks. Yeah. You'll have a much, much better experience. And I'm not saying that the big clinics, and programs are bad. There's always room for that. And listen, if you do the math and it's $20 a session or $22 a session, wherever you live, and your kids are active, you know what? That's not bad. But if you really want somebody to teach, that's why people go to hitting coaches. That's why goalies have goalie instructors. That's why tennis is so successful, right?
Well,
if I went to a tennis clinic and there was 47 kids and my kid was the worst kid, do you really think he's going to, or actually the worst kid actually might get more attention. It's the middle kid.
It's too many kids is the problem.
And you're like, you can't really fix a serve. You can't really fix skating.
Listen, Mike, how about this as a red flag? If you're just going to say that you went to this person's clinic, right? Oh, I went to Robbie Glantz. I did it. That's not good either. Right? You want to be able to take something. Again, I said Tim Turnicott because we know that name. I took a lot out of that clinic, and this was in the 90s. Right. So before YouTube, before we had all these resources. So that's another great point I want to bring up real quick to parents, kids. You have unlimited resources here to learn visually in terms of YouTube and Google. You don't have access to the ice time all the time. I admit that, but there's so much you can do on your own. With that said, Mike, I got to bring this up too. when looking for a coach. So again, I did a lot of private lessons when I was kind of in the middle school, high school level. Now I wanted to do it. I've always said this on the show. I started when I was 12. So from my point of view, this was all catch up for me. Right. And I wasn't doing it because my sole goal was to get a scholarship and go play in the NHL. That was my dream. Okay. But I was going to private lessons because I loved it. I loved it. And I had really, really, really good coaches. All right. One of my coaches' names was Jason DeMatteo. He played for University of Minnesota. He played for Minnesota. He'll kick me if I hear me say that. All right. But he was home from college and he just loved coaching. He just wanted to give me everything. Another guy, Stefan Charbonneau out of Aston, former NHL player, loved to teach. He made me love those lessons. Now I was fortunate. We had the ability to do it. All right, financially and time-wise, that not everybody has that. I want to make sure I say that, but you can find yourself coaches that don't have a name that's been all over a billboard that really want to teach. When I was in college, right now after college, I coached too. In college, I spent my summers coaching high school kids. I loved it. I wanted to do it. I loved being on the ice. So one point I want to make, clinic or private lesson or anything in between, the person that's in charge, the person running it, call them. Talk to them. It should not just be a money grab, right? What can my kid expect from this clinic? You should interview them. I'm not going to hound them, but you should talk to them and say, like, hey, look, I want to know what's going to go on here and if it's a right fit for my kid. And if a coach is worth their weight, all right, in gold, just a saying, if your kid's not a good fit, they'll say, you know what, this is too advanced, but here's a great clinic you can look at. Here's a great option for you to pursue. Right. So it's more about the questions you ask and not the outcome. If you're looking for babysitters, and look, don't get them wrong, parents. I am sometimes too. I'm looking for something for my kid to do for an hour so I can get something done sometimes. But if you're going to pay money, make sure it's a good investment. All right. Make sure it's a good hour. And like Mike said it, he's totally right. If you just want the hour, go play flag football. Go do there is stuff for free or that's $10 a session.
Well, but don't forget too, there's unintended consequences here sometimes of your kid agreeing that they want, your 8-year-old saying, oh yeah, I want to do that. I want to catch up, or I want to do that. My friends are doing it. And then you go to a clinic and there's so many kids. It's so boring. There's so much instruction that you actually drive the game away from the kids. Right. I mean, if you're, especially in the spring and summer, we think we're developing the kids because, they're in a line.
Burn them out, man.
Bored out of their mind. Well, it's just there's no inspiration. There's no like you want to have. If you could get a coach, that's a great idea. All these college kids are home, girls and boys.
Yeah.
I always say, listen, I'd rather hire somebody like a babysitter for my 6-year-old, go on the ice, roll around. I can't roll around anymore. I can't even get up. So roll around, flip, dip, jump, tag, play duck, goose. Whatever you can do, that to me is a clinic for a 6-year-old. To me, a clinic for a 6-year-old is, I bet you can't slap that puck harder than me. I bet you can't catch me. I bet you can't, you're going to be the shark and I'm going to be the minnow. And that is going to be more for that child's development in the spring and creating passion, creating fun. If you put your kid and you push him into a line and you say, Matt, think about these coaches that yell and scream at 8-year-olds because they're not standing in a line. And no sense. Of course they're not standing in a line.
Yeah, they got to be moving.
They're losing their minds.
They got to be moving. It's got to be fun. I'll give you a great example. I have a player on my team right now. He's really good. He loves the game, right? And this is the kid who shows up just ready to go. He's got a smile. He says hello to me every time. Having a hard time stopping on his left foot. It's my mission in a fun way to get this kid to learn how to stop on his left foot before the end of the season. That's the level of detail, right? But I want to make it fun. It's not, guys, drive straight. Come on. That's not.
You got to stop on your left foot.
Yeah. If you don't stop on your left foot, when you get to squirts, it's not.
Which is my left foot?
You're not wrong. You're not wrong
I know
about that. All right. So again, let's split up again. 12 and down. And again, there's always some variance between the 10 to 14 age, just because of puberty. It's got to be fun. Look, every pro player we talk to, every pro coach we talk to says love of the game is the primary thing you have to even make it outside skill. And Mike, Christie, I've seen teenagers burn out, and it's devastating for the kid because they don't know what they're doing. It's devastating for the parents because you've invested so much time and energy, right? you can't relate to an 18-year-old, even though you think you want to relate to an 18-year-old. You're not 18 anymore. All right. I'm just coming to the realization, you two, you'll laugh at this, that, hey, my brain's not getting any older. I'm still a kid, but I don't look like one anymore. And guess what? When a kid looks at me, they don't see the kid brain that I have. They see me as I am. And I got to remember that. And that's okay. It's completely okay. It's part of it. Anyway, I'm digressing. I do want to talk about goalie clinics really quick, because I think there's a major opportunity with goalie clinics and goalie shooting areas. And then I want to finish the episode up with not clinics, but training areas, training zones, because that's a new thing, or I should say newer for me. It's really popped up over the last 10 years, these year-round training centers that I think can be very valuable or fun. They can also be detrimental if you're not careful. But goalie clinics, there's two things about goalie clinics I want to talk about. One, we had the privilege of interviewing Mike McKenna, former NHL goalie, moved around a lot. I talked to him the other week again on another show I do, and he keeps preaching for goalies, skating, 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 skating. It's not just about saves. It's not just about angles. If you find a coach that's going to teach you great skating, that's the fundamental starting point to be a great goaltender. And then obviously the fundamentals beyond that. Goalie clinics, if I was the parent of a goalie, the first thing I would ask is, do you have limited availability at your clinic? All right. That's the first thing I would ask. I do not want to be on the ice with 50 goalies at a time. There's just no way that's going to be ultra beneficial. You'll get something out of it, but that's the first thing to look for. Mike, before I go, there's another half to this I want to talk about, but from a goalie specific point of view, is there any tips or tricks that you have or knowledge, about goalie clinics that parents should be asking or kids should be looking out for?
Yeah. So the guys that I work with, well, most of the guys that I work with that run goalie clinics, right? And some of the people I work with on how to structure these things is knowing that first of all, that coach to student ratio for goaltending is so important, because it's such a unique position. Right. And a kid at 8 and 10 and 12 and 14, they push off differently. They have different strengths. They have different angling issues. It's not the same. It's not cookie cutter. So you can't just say, no, my kid is always going to learn. They're always going to be here. This is because goalies are so unique. And one of the knocks on goaltending right now, right, is all these goaltenders are starting to be the same goaltending. Right. So it's actually easier to beat goaltenders with higher skill level players because the goalies are becoming very regimented and very structured and very robotic. So, the key for me is finding that goalie coach that understands the fundamentals of movement, but then takes my players' strengths and accentuates them. Right. And you can't do that in a group of 40 goalies.
Can't do anything in a group of 40. Let's just be honest. You can't do anything.
Well, and I think even more than 5, and I think not only numbers, but are my kids potted in the same skill and age category? So is my 8-year-old with a 15-year-old? No, my 8-year-old's got to be with 8, 9, and 10-year-olds.
Absolutely.
And I think that's really important. And then the other piece is, understanding, and this is where you helped your chops, right, as a kid, is find a goalie coach that has a great relationship with great shooters. Not hard shooters, right? Not psychopaths, but people that know, okay, I need you to put a shot on this kid's glove 9 times out of 10.
Right. At this speed too. That's the other important part of it.
And not ripping pucks over his shoulder because you want to feel good.
Right.
And I think that's, that to me is a key. Like I watch some goalie coaches and their shooters are like, they're so proud of themselves for just ripping the hell out of pucks. And the goalie's like, I haven't even stocked the puck yet. Like, what kind of goalie clinic is this? Like, I want to actually feel the puck hit me. So just look for those two. I mean, I have a great relationship with a lot of really good goalie coaches. And, the one thing I find the most is that they're personal. They do a lot of stuff off the ice. They do a lot of video. They do a lot of interaction. It's not just, clinic's at 4, goes till 5.
Right.
See you later.
Right. Especially at that position. It is.
And that comes back down to that mechanical system. Do your goalie coaches have a system? Do they have follow-up? Do they have a pre-interview? Do they do things that are going to make this specialized position advantageous for you? Or are you just a target? If you're just a target in a group of 40 goalies, then buyer beware. Know that you're going into the net, you're fighting for your life, and then you're getting out of there in an hour.
Well, and like you said, Mike, that if you're going to do that, you can just get a Milek net and some street pads and have someone shoot on you outside if you want to just be a target.
Yeah, even I could shoot on you.
Right.
Maybe I'll hit you.
The goaltending position is so mechanical. And again, it's one of those things when you dive into it, and goalies know this, when you dive into it, it's so much more than anybody realizes. We'll just stop the puck. Well, a lot goes into just stopping the puck. In fact, one of my favorite quotes, and almost any goalie worth their salt will tell you this, that when you see a goalie make an amazing save, they were most likely out of position. They'll all tell you that. When you see the goalie dive across and catch it, that goalie was out of position and made a mistake. And most goalies say that, right? What amazes me about goalies is when they make blind saves because they're just anticipating a shot, from the point. And you see this in the NHL all the time. They don't even see the puck. They just kind of feel. I remember, and this is a good transition. You made a great point about shooters. I went to a school up in New Jersey. Guy's name was Jim Margastich, right? And he had this big gym, indoor gym. I remember the first day I go in there as a shooter, I volunteered to shoot. I'm going to talk about that. I go in there, he's got trash cans everywhere hanging from the ceiling with string. I'm like, what is this place? He starts swinging the trash cans back and forth in front of the goalie. And I'm shooting there and he's like, go ahead. And I'm thinking, wow, I got to get through these trash cans with the puck. But I'm also thinking this goalie's got to make a save. We can't see each other. I was amazed by that. All right. Where I'm going with this though, Mike, that was great advice on goalies. Shooters are really important. If you're the parent of a shooter, number one, before you send your kid to any kind of goaltending clinic to be a shooter, make sure they have good mechanics, make sure they've gone and learned how to shoot. All right. Or they have an idea, I should say. You want a great, low cost, potentially free situation for your kid, volunteer them to shoot at a goalie clinic when they are ready. Just tagging that on for what you just said, Mike. All right. Two things will happen. One, your kid will get a ton of shots with instruction of shoot here. I talked about before muscle memory. I need 10 shots top right now. Next thing, I've said this on the show many times. They used to call me stone hands when I was a kid. I could not score. I was always a good playmaker, could always pass and move my feet. Could not score. I was always one of the lowest scorers on my team. When that switch went for me, it clicked for me. When it clicked the switch, when I flipped the switch, I'm trying to, it's early. When I flipped the switch on that was when I went to goalie clinics as a shooter. Because not only did I get a lot of good shooting practice, I learned how goalies worked. When I learned the position of goaltending and how a goalie works, I learned how to score. Right? So you want a very cheap, affordable situation because most shooters get paid, Mike. I'm just saying something you can earn some money. Take a look at goalie clinics, volunteer. Again, when your kid is ready, you have to have the right demeanor for it. Mike's right. I remember being in college doing this, thinking, I want to rip this shot top right. That's not what the high school goalie needed. He needed a 60% speed shot to the glove 10 times in a row. That was a good skill to have. Right.
I know a lot of the guys that work for Steve Valiquette as shooters and a lot of, but mostly college kids, major junior kids. And he's harder on the shooters than he is on the goalies, and so he becomes like the best shooting coach because he needs the shooters to do something over and over and over again the correct way so that his goalies can react to that. I mean, there's a reason why like the company Sensorina is out there, right? In the virtual goalie headset, because it eliminates, it can add repetition, it can add, an AI of doing the same thing over and over again. So we've got to get our players, our shooters, to have that AI mentality, right? That it has to be the same motion every time.
Let me dive into that because look, I'm a big believer of great goalies make great shooters and great shooters make great goalies, and D, you fit in there somewhere as well. But I believe that. Look, when the teams I've always loved coaching or being a part of is when we have a great goalie, and I have a conversation with that goalie at the beginning of the season, like, look, you're so good, you're going to make our shooters good, but you got to let them shoot on you. You got to let them try. You can't get mad when they score on you. We're getting better. But when I was doing goalie clinics, one of the things, and it's funny because I still know a lot of these drills. One of the drills was goalies on the post, and follow me at home because this is the type of instruction I think is really important. Goalies on the post, I tap my stick twice. First tap activates him. Second tap says I'm about to shoot, and then I shoot. So tap, tap, shoot. Goalie's off the post in front, ready to go. Not only is that teaching the goalie what he has to do, it's teaching me the timing of the goalie as a shooter. So when I get into a game situation, I'm starting to learn the timing of how goalies work and where they're going to be and how they're going to move. I also learn patience with the puck. How many of you, especially younger players, might and squirt? How many of you have a kid who gets on a breakaway or just moves down and just shoots the puck straight into the middle of the net, right in the goalie's chest, right? All right. I see it all the time. There's some kids at that age that are awesome. They understand not to do that. But I learned how to look up, move, time it. No, he's going to come, go back to the left. There's a lot of things you can learn at these clinics that you can't learn at just a shooting clinic because most of the time there's no goalie in that. And I'm going to say this again. probably 9 times out of 10, if you're a shooter at these things, it's free, or you might get paid. Parents, it's like a job.
I mean, look at Tim Turk. He's probably the best shooting coach in the NHL right now. Like the top guy that everyone goes after, Mitch Marner and all these guys. They're all seeking Tim Turk out. He wasn't an NHL hockey player. He was a guy who he became a shooting instructor only because he had a great shot, and he started shooting at goalie practices. And also he's like, wow, I really could tell the mechanics of what I do here by how the goalie's reacting. And I can actually teach this, because now I could take the mechanics that we're trying to teach goalies to be successful in and recognize. Well, I can counter that because I know what we're trying to teach goalies to counter. And I think it's a great way for older players to fine tune their game, because it's not just going down and flipping pucks. It's strategically putting pucks in areas of the net that are going to help them become better shooters. Absolutely. And you start, and I think you're absolutely right. It's, one of the worst things for a good team is having a great goalie sometimes in practice, because it's like, I can't even score. Like, I feel like I don't know how to score.
If you do it right, the team will get better and the goalie will get better.
I mean, you hear stories like a Dominic Hasek back in the day, and like the guy competed so much that they had to bring in other goalies for practice because it wasn't.
Like, I had a goalie in England. His name was Yanis. He was a championship goaltender. He was by far the best goalie in the league. I remember I had to have a conversation because he got hot. He was a hot, hothead, which you kind of want as a goalie. I had to have a conversation with him sometimes, like, I'm having our shooters challenge you at practice, because I said this, Yanis, you'll make them better.
Yeah.
And I said, I know you hate getting scored on. I know you hate it. I'm not telling you to let any pucks in the net, but you will make them better if you let them shoot on you, because no goalie in the league is as good as you. And I preach this all the time, and you can apply this to clinics, right? You make the practices hard so the games are easy. I'm a big believer of that as you get older, right? It's same thing with clinics. The clinics should be hard so it becomes easy in a game. But above all, let's round this episode out, okay? Because we're starting to digress, and the show could go 12 hours every week if we wanted it to. When you're looking for clinics, parents, right? Find the value, research the value. There's more resources than ever. Christie makes a great point. Talk to other parents, but go online. You'll see the reviews. That's number one. 2, have a conversation with your kid. And make sure that there's some interest, right? I'm not saying, again, like I don't know any kid. I mean this, and I'm sure there exists, but I don't know anybody who wants to do power skating, right? You do it because it's good for your game and there's interest in it, right? And that's kind of my advice for that. Number 3, as Christie said, facility, travel, cost. You got to apply that, right? You got to look into that. Number 4, last thing is, depending on the age of your kid, should they be playing other sports? I'm going to say this again. Every piece of scientific research today, it might change, every piece says play multiple sports if you want to be a better athlete. You can't play the same sport year round. You will burn out as a parent. You'll burn out as a coach. You'll burn out as a player. You burn out as a goalie. You burn out as a puck pusher, whatever you are. All right. Nothing can be done. It's too much pressure. Kids need a break from time to time. And it's one of those things. Don't be scared to do it. I always joke, my kid plays left-handed. It took me everything. I played right-handed. I'm right-handed. My kid's right-handed. All the research says if you're right-handed, play left-handed. It was the hardest thing for me to give my kid a left-handed stick in the beginning, just because I was programmed. I'm so glad I did it. It's completely right. So anyway, I'm going to turn to you both for final thoughts now on clinics. Christie Casciano Burns in Syracuse, New York. You ready to go after you?
Yeah, I'm going to leave you with a final thought from another hockey mom who I just interviewed for an upcoming article for USA Hockey Magazine. Her name is Valerie Comfer. Her daughter, Jessie, is going to be in the Olympics next month.
Awesome. That's awesome.
USA. And I asked her about skating year round, because I'm thinking, you raised an Olympian. I bet your daughter was just 24/7 hockey ever since she was little. And to my surprise, she said, absolutely not. We let Jessie do a lot of other things when she was young. She said, it's really important that you let your kids experience other parts of life, let them do art, let them, be in the high school musical, let them enjoy other sports. It's really important to give your kids a break. So give that some thought before you start signing them up in the spring and all summer for year-round hockey.
Christie, I'm just going to reiterate it.
Okay.
I'm going to reiterate it, what you said. Great athletes are great athletes. They're not just great hockey players. Most pro athletes can play multiple sports near a pro level. not going to say like a basketball player can jump on the ice and play hockey. I'm just saying that they're pros for a reason. They're athletes.
Yeah.
And the Olympians are athletes. Obviously, that's awesome. Mike,
Right.
Let's turn to you, the bearded wonder with the scowl right now. Look like Batman. We need to get you a mask, buddy. Now you're smiling. It doesn't work.
Oh, good.
Go ahead, Mike. Final thoughts on clinics.
Yeah, no, I think at the end of the day, it's buyer beware. Do your research. If you're going to go to a clinic, go for the right reasons. And if the clinic's not out there that you want, make it. Just go out there and find a group of 10 parents and make your own clinic. It's not that hard. Ice time in the spring and the summer is the best time to get it. It's the best time for development. It's the best time to, really, micro teach the skills that you want. And if your kids go into it and you have like-minded, and the other thing I would say is, try to find a clinic for your kids that have liked, skilled, and liked ages. Only because it's intimidating for an 8-year-old to be out there with 12-year-olds, and for a 12 and 13-year-old, it's like, oh, I got to be out here with this 8-year-old.
Right.
Like they don't see, like in your skating, it doesn't really matter. You're not competing against the kid, but kids just look at it differently. And I think, the more intense you can be in your clinics with the same skill level, the better outcome. I think I still believe that steel sharpens steel. And I think that in that kind of clinic setting is better for development.
It's a great point. My quick final thought is this: is parents, especially of the older kids out there, you invested a lot of time, a lot of money into your kid. I'm not saying this to everybody, but it can become very easy for you with that kind of investment to say, you got to do this because I've put in the time and I've put in the money, and this is the direction we're going in. Make sure that you're thinking clearly. Make sure that this is about your kid and not about the time you've put in and the money you've put in. I'm not saying you have to ignore that, but make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. Make sure it's a mutually agreed upon thing that you're doing, and not just you're doing it because your kid owes you that. I've seen it. Most likely those parents aren't listening to the show, which is okay. The parents who listen to this show, you want to learn, and we appreciate every single one of you. So that's going to do it for this episode on clinics. We hope you find value. As always, you can email us at team@ourkidsplayhockey.com. You can ask the panel any questions you want. We love that you keep listening to us every week. Every week, the audience goes up. Thanks so much for listening to this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Check out all the episodes on ourkidsplayhockey.com or wherever podcasts can be heard. With that said, skate on and have a great week, everybody.